one of the strengths of using a biological perspective to analyze psychological problem is that the approach is usually every scientific. Biological research has helped produce useful treatment for verify of psychological disorder. The disadvantage of this approach is that it often fails to explain others' influence on behavior. Things like emotion, social stress, environmental factors, children experience and cultural variables can also play a role in information of psychological problem.
Okay. My topic is brain and behavior. Firstly, the reason why biological psychology is important in psychology is that aim to understand how the brain influence behavior known as biophysiology. Technological advance in recent years have allowed scientists to study the human brain way that not possible in the past. According to study that has been done by scientists, they found that your perception and thought are like a little integrate process can make you lose one or several process after the brain damage. For example, the area that in temporal lobe found in human as well monkey that only respond to the sun phase, and people will damage in the area will cause them to not longer recognize face. Even if they see well from the other angle from such as recognize people by their voice. That is my own opinion about why biological psychology is important in psychology.
So the other point that's why biological psychology is important in our psychology field is we can understand and study more about the correlation of body, emotional behavior and stress. Emotional and stress already have been a hot topic in our psychology talk. There's many cases that that happen associated with teenager and adult. For example, committed suicide, murder, lost self-control as resulting self-injury and the others. As an illustration, we can say that in our country, to 20 November 2017, there's a case that a man who killed his 3 children and then hanged himself, and he was believed under stress because losing his wife in the earlier of the month. So when we have a depression, our body tend to reduce the serotonin in our brain and elevate the cortisol in our bloodstream. When we having experience ongoing stress, the stress hormone will be active all day long. According to Nancy Kyle-Fleming says that this will be exhausting the body and could cause the neurotransmitter in our brain like serotonin, the feel-good chemical, the feel-good chemical that affect our mood, our appetite and our sleep and the others not function correctly. So this potentially leading to depression. So this explain why that Malaysian man could kill his children and then committed suicide. This due to fact of his having a severe depression, and could not think rationally. So that's hence it's clear that the hormones play a important part in our behavior, our way thinking, and our daily life.
Biological psychology is significant in psychology because it may determine that all action individuals take has a purpose, and that our behavior is likely to be impacted by the genes we inherit. The study of the genes, the variation of characteristics affected by gene is known as genetics. A gene is the basic unit through which genetic information is stored and passed between generations. Basically, a gene is a specific section of one of a long double helix shaped DNA molecules that appear in each cell of the body. Genes have a role determining who is person is on inside and out. Genes could have an indirect effect on a person through cause and effect chains that include the environment.
Children experience is an important thing in psychological biology because with experience, when we are young, it will have a big impact as we grow older. This is because what if a child have experienced something that gives trauma? For example, the child was beaten by his father, so that if leave a scar on the child body. Because of that, the child will feel very afraid of his own father because he has hit the child. Leaving a scar by the time the child grow up, it is very likely that the child will be traumatized by a blow from everyone because he had a bad experience when the child was young. This is because our minds cannot erase that memory because it is a thing called long-term memory, which is make the memory difficult for the child to forget. The child minds will turn into the fear when someone tries to hit the child, even it is just a joke, but the child will feel the trauma because by being beaten by his own father. When he was young, this is the reason why we need to take care and love all children, no matter who the children, so as not to give a bad experience to child who want to grow up. That will because the child to have a scary childhood experience.
Hello guys, I want to share with you guys the explanation of pain and how it works. So according to the NBA Author website, it says that pain is a psychological progress. A pain message that been sent to our brain by a specialized nerve called nociceptor, or easily we can say as a pain receptor. So when pain receptor are stimulated by temperature, pressure, or chemical, they release a neurotransmitter within the cell. Neurotransmitter is a messenger in the nervous system that facilitates communication between nerve cell. So through our life, physical pain is something that always happen in life. Have people insist that pain is the best teacher in the life lesson. For example, when we try to learn how to ride a bicycle for first time, we often to fall and injure our body and feel experience the pain itself. So the process of falling and feeling the pain itself will trigger our mind to control our body from falling. So the neurotransmitter will trigger to stimulate our subconscious mind to balance our body while riding a bicycle. As a result, could master how to ride a bike. And there's another example that when we accidentally injure our body, for example, hand with a knife, that causing a tissue damage and spilling of blood. According each pain receptor forms a one end of a nerve cell connected to the other end of a spinal cord by a long nerve fiber. or action. When the pain receptor is activated, it sends an electrical signal up the nerve fiber. In the end, of the result is that you feel a sensation of pain like in the finger, like ouch, what is this, or something similar related to the pain emotion. For example, feel annoyed or irritated.
Heartbreak and heartbreak may not to be so different, at least according to our brain. The mind responds to social rejection in much the same way as physical pain, especially internet injury. That similarity reflects our deep need to social relationship. The pain of this heartbreak is not only in adoption but also in old age. This rejection can make a person feel sad in the chest or heart, which make them feel frustrated and hurt. The hardship of a heartbreak is not only when we love is rejected, but with the passing of someone we love can also cause internal frustration and pain that is not easily to express it.
You will experience pain if anything wounds you. When people witness others in pain, they display a pattern of the brain activation that is comparable to the one seen when they're in pain themselves. When researchers place uncomfortable heated devices on their arms, the brain of the same participant were examined. The regions of the brain involved for processing the sensory and emotion components of pain are engaged. According to a comparison of scans, this implies that the overlap is manifestation of neural empathy, which might help people connect socially.
I will explain about cognition, which is one of pain. Cognition based on theory is our emotional reaction and behavior to a situation is strongly influenced by how we see and think about this situation. The cognitive process that underlie all behavior patterns have been divided into two categories, namely, and the form, structure, and content of thought. Cognitive structure organize and execute the direction of pain, experience, thought, intentional memory, decide to make, and the other self-organizing process. For example, unconsciously, we cannot learn a new thing without cognition.
Depression is a mood disorder that causes feelings of sadness and loss of happiness all the time. Depression also affects the way of thinking that suffer from depression. It is because of a person who likes to hide feelings, as the person does not like to tell his problem to everyone, because he thinks everyone cannot understand it. Because day after day he has kept various feelings without expressing, it is the main factor that causes depression. Depression is a disease that causes our brain not to think positively. In fact, it always thinks in a negative direction, which can cause depression, because when we do not want to tell the problem to everyone, the way to calm down is that we need to always say hello and faithfully invite the person to experience little by little to hidden feelings. The pain of depression can have a detrimental effect on our life when we do not find ways to alleviate the pain. The pain of depression is caused by our feelings, and then it goes to the brain, and eventually our behavior become not like before.
Okay, Pain is a great sensor that gifted for human to react any threat around them. Any impairment to pain sensor is a great loss to the one and could endanger the body. Without the sensor or disability to interpret the sense neurosignal will cause the body fail to respond with immediate reaction. For a good example, the sense of the skin to feel the hot stuff. Should the malfunctioning or any brain disability to interpret the neurosignal will causes the body to hold the hot stuff longer, even it causing the skin to burn. This is one good example of pain system installed in human body physically. However, another concept of pain in human experience is more important. Every day, every minute, and every moment, the brain will directly what is it mean? The brain will interpret the scenario of an activity happen in their life, in human life. Interestingly, what human links pair to their experience will be stored in the brain as a memory. Human brain consists of multi-billion neurons sending and interpreting the signal by second. It will record the memory stored in the brain once the signal received and the sensor, and then instruct the body to immediate to react their emotion or physically. Another one good example to explain this is someone who failed to link unhealthy habit as a pain in their pain sensor. Drug addiction is a good example. So they claiming taking the drugs to make them feel pressure or feel free from taking any problem in their life. They are programming the brain to feel pleasure that by taking the drug, whereas the drug is actually will give more problem, emotion, and physically in reality, as we know. Some do realize actually the drug we give them, the drug addiction is a unpleasant habit, but since the brain has a program to the certain experience of pleasure, defining the causing them to feel the need of taking drugs repeatedly. So this is wrong brain programming, causing them to lose the justification of the wrong and hard to remove and remain in the addiction. So the worst case because of the addiction causing of life, they're living in the life of miserable, unmanaged, and tend to commit crime due to because they want to getting the supplies of the drugs. This is wrong experience of pain linked of the pleasure in life, considered as a impairment of pain in human memories.
Based on the sense organ I have choose, I will explain about pain is a complete process in part because it is mediated by so many different variables. However, pain is a major reason for seeking medical treatment. Pain attitude may be influenced by anxiety that can be provide a reason for pain. Several actors identify a positive association between anxiety and pain perception among surgical patients and people with chronic pain syndrome. A thought not fully understood is it thought that the state of anxiety is caused by the sympathetic nervous system, amplified by adrenaline and non-adrenaline from the adrenal medulla, which is stimulated by the hypothalamus. State that anxiety is fear of death and uncertainty for the future. as well as family and financial problem as well can cause increase anxiety in people with cancer. Patients with cancer will experience emotional stress in addition to physical symptoms and prone to anxiety, depression, and fear. Studies show that a thought cancer-induced pain remind individual of the active nature of violence as well. Anxiety and pain closely linked.
Family should provide good support. It is too difficult to have a loved one with a chronic illness. This condition can cause anger, sadness, fear, and loneliness. These problems cannot be solved on their own. They make the people go away. People with this feeling also need treatment. Overcoming this emotion with support group, family therapy, or individual therapy can strengthen families and individuals as well as reduce the suffering of all involved. There is no easy aspect of chronic pain. The feeling of obvious and need to be addressed. If ignoring your emotions will not make the problem go away. There are also some treatment center of offering family programs that address all family members, not just people suffering of chronic pain or addiction.
Depression based on age and severity. Depression itself is a disease that causes a person to feel sad and not want to associate with people because it has been dilemma by a feeling of sadness that can endanger oneself. Among the effects that occur from depression is that the person is not lose interest in all things, want to be alone all the time. There is a bad effect on the person facing this depressive illness. With the process of this depression, it can give a bad deficiency in ourselves that can lead to suicidal feelings because we often feel sad and do not want to spend the time with others as a result of having depression illness. Depression usually makes a person feel bad, and this feeling confines oneself for weeks or more than 6 months. Depression in physical term is feeling constant sadness, always feeling hopeless, and having difficult making decisions. Meanwhile, the symptoms of depression in terms of physique are moving or talking slower than usual, weight loss and rise suddenly due to appetite that often fluctuates, and having sleep disorder.
Chronic pain is a problem that affects people all around the world. Around 20% of individuals suffer from moderate to severe chronic pain. The capacity of the brain to change anatomically and functionally as a result of personal experience and use is referred to as neuroplasticity. The brain prefers to stay organized, but this function can sometimes go awry, as in the case of chronic pain, if there are two neurons that work together and often produce an impulse simultaneously, their cortical maps will become a neural network. Study on patients with chronic tension type headache, a common chronic pain disorder. People who suffer from chronic headache and other kinds of chronic may have a lower quality of life because the discomfort stops them from working. Among other things, as a result, it is critical that we understand the causes of chronic pain rather than simply treating the symptom with medicine.